Okay, so Jerry, I remember this wonderful image you had where you see yourself as a boy leaning over your globe and fingering the mountains.
Mm,
Would you tell us that now?
yeah. Yeah, I see myself, I'd say 10 or 11 years old, and I'm in my family home, just inside the front door. There's a chest there. It's a cedar chest, and the only thing that sits on top of that chest is a globe. The base of the globe has an atlas in it, but then there's the globe. Uh, I can see it very vividly, all the details of it. It's even got the axis of Earth tilted at 23 degrees, just like the Earth is relative to its path around the sun. And I feel joy when I see that globe. It's just like such a familiar old friend in a way. Can picture all the colors, the blue ocean, and it has some raised parts. It's not just a smooth sphere, but the terrain is actually raised up that corresponds to the mountains. And
The terrain, yeah,
the
okay.
terrain,
Mhm.
and just before I even feel it, I just feel this warmth and this like reassuring sense of pleasure in my chest, front of my arms, into my belly, and I've got, yeah, this slight leaning forward energy that I feel in my shoulders, and I used to just love to feel the surface of this globe and the mountain ranges. Especially I can remember like the Himalayas, that block of texture, and I feel it now with my fingers. And then the contrast of that, I turn the globe and I feel the actual that linear raised ridge of the Rocky Mountains, and then the Andes down in South America. Such a long range. Yeah, something about knowing that something I'm feeling corresponds to something that's out there in the world that I've never seen feels feels exciting and alluring. Feel a smile coming up, and just this curiosity, like wanting to read the little details of that texture. Some places that line of the mountains is a little thicker, then it's a little thinner, it's a little higher, and yeah, feel it from the Rocky Mountains all the way down through, really through Mexico and Central America, with a couple little breaks, and then down the Andes all the way down to the tip of South America. Just, just like I'm reading with my fingertips. I don't even know exactly what I'm reading, but I'm still exploring it nonetheless. And that's the overall feeling. It stays pretty consistent in my chest and my arms, my face. It's a very joyful, relaxed, curious experience. Yeah. And I mean, I could go into all the details of that globe, and then out from there. It's like just feeling those details on the globe. I can really It really brings alive the details of that room there. Even though I haven't thought of that much at all since then, it's amazing how much those details feel alive in me. Different things I see in that space stir different things inside me.
Okay, so I'm glad that you're expressing that openness to the wholeness of your immediate surroundings, but I think what I would like at the moment is if you would just concentrate a little more on the globe and your
Hmm.
way you're relating to the globe, and see if you can see and sense and maybe make sense to other people of of how this globe is and you are getting along.
Mm. It's just got this exploratory quality to it. Just feeling this contrast between the flat of the plains and that raised terrain of the mountains. I just see my 11-year-old self as it's not like I'm in some kind of deep analytical thought. It's almost like I'm idly doing this, but something about it really draws me in. That the globe does.
Do you
Yeah.
have any sense of what moves you to be free to be that curious in that way?
One is that I have free time. It's like something I remember doing in the house and that I can just experience when I don't have anything pressing to do.
Mhm.
This is a can be a great thing about being 10 or 11 years old. It's just like something it just feels like something I'm really drawn to do myself. No one ever told me, "Hey, go feel the globe. Go check out the globe." It's just something that I like to do and kind of in between times. It's like a real in between part of the house. Just it's not a room that I spend time in, but I pause there and uh, something
Okay.
about being
But-
like tactile is really rich. It's not like I'm just watching something on TV. It's something that more of me's engaged with, and it's like this. It's almost like this hidden language or something. What I'm feeling. I know it. I know it has a lot of meaning to it. I've seen books about the mountains and just something about touching that. It's like I'm just reading something I haven't fully experienced yet, but this is my way of entering into it just a little bit at that age. It's like it's almost like reading the future or something, or and
Okay.
it feels enlivening.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad I did this, and it says even more than I could have hoped as to mm, what I enjoy about sharing this work with you, because that openness that you just described is the gift that I think our collaboration has to give to this world.
Mm.
And we can maybe set some other time go into the whys and wherefores, which I think would be very interesting. But right now, I just kind of want to accentuate the perspective, the curiosity about of and the sense of how tantalizing it is to be in touch with the wholeness of the globe, the wholeness of the room, the wholeness of being in touch with the whole world, and wanting to go there. Because I think so many of us have been just closeted, you know. We've learned how to be very guarded, and even our curiosity is just closeted. So you and I somehow got shook out in a way where we're more on the go. And that is what led me to my imagination to surface that image of yours, because there you are, just in touch with everything there is to be in touch with.
Mm.
Or, you know, yourself, your globe, your house, the whole world, the future. And there you are. And it's so simple. There's nothing obscure about that image, right? You know, and then it'll soon make sense to them that children do this just naturally when they're very young, before they have the vocabulary that will interfere with it. And that's what people find charming about children, is that they are so direct and clear-eyed, and you know, right with whatever just happened. And if we can get people into that kinship with the natural good spirits, curiosity, daring of children, then we'll be on the upside of living instead of on the downside where we are now at the bottom of now.
Mm.
Well, forgive my prepositions, I got lost there. But we want to get people going on the ride of these streams of inner light that make us more intelligible to ourselves and each other, and give us the coherence that we crave, but otherwise are unable to be in touch with. This takes a little explaining, but you now by know, if when I say each eidetic image is another island in consciousness, you know what I mean. And then, you know, when I say that each eidetic image is composed of different distinct features that are distinct energies, you know what I mean. So an eidetic image is a composite energy field. And what happens, like you went into that scene, and then your scene is so clear, I can enter in it, and then, well, maybe I should even do that now and show. But the point is that these images are the grounds we walk on. So you present an image to me, then if I see myself in your shoes and I come up with a reciprocal vision, you see where I'm coming from. And somehow our common grounds illuminate each other and shine out to each other and contribute to each other. And we maintain our autonomy while sharing needed energies, filling in, because our imaginations pick up on the needed energies that other people's inner lights are sharing. They don't steal anything. I don't steal anything from you when my image picks up on something of yours, and vice versa. So this is what we have to give. And
What
so
do you?
maybe what I should do right at this moment, I want to hear what you have to say, but maybe, you know, before, after I hear what you have to say, I should do an empathy image into your image.
That would be great.
Okay, so
Yeah, I was just gonna ask for a bit of clarification when you say our imagination picks up on the needed energy.
okay, well,
Just
the
a little
last,
clarification might be useful there.
no, it's
Yeah.
very important. And it takes some getting used to. But the last time we worked together and I told you that image of me being tied to a tree, it was a
Hmm.
very difficult image. And
Hmm.
you know, I know you well enough now that I I thought, well, if it's too tough, that's okay. We'll go on to something else. We'll drop it. It's not going to destroy anything if it's too difficult. But what actually happened is that that was one of the worst images I ever had, as far as being reflective of some of the worst aspects of my upbringing,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And what happened for you, I could let you describe it, but as I see it, your imagination picked up on the intense difficulty and in its own way prompted you to grapple with something maybe equally intensely difficult for you,
Yeah.
but not in a way that was too much for you, but just in a way that was helpful to you. And
Yeah.
that's what I think that's you the common ground that we experience when we do reciprocal vision brings out an equality in us that is obviously desperately needed, but totally unexpected. And then this enables us to do justice. So what, like for instance, in this recent early child image in it, I'm so grateful to you for it because your going with the flow has enabled me to go deeper and to feel the strength of this comfort and joy that Janny is bringing me. It's so remarkable. It's out of all the agita at this late date, I should find out, oh my God, I know what comfort and joy is. And I knew that way back when,
Mm-hmm.
but it got left behind.
Mm.
So, but there, you know, comfort with fortitude and joy, that comes from wholeness. And so everything that you and I do has to do with our being predisposed to get and stay in touch with the components of wholeness that give us substance and give us the ability to get a hold of ourselves in skillful ways and elude the peril that otherwise we are subject to.
Yeah. Well, I love the ways that you've been sharing with me to really do that.
So let me see if it helps now. If I try and do an empathy image or a reciprocal vision into your image,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because I realized, and it hit me as soon as that image came to you. You were going through the garage, and
Mm-hmm.
first you went past the rowboat, and it was clearly brought up something about having a good time with your daddy in the rowboat. And then you went into the house, and then it's about leaning over this globe and fingering these mountaintops. And that really got me. And I realized today that I remember being just overjoyed when I saw you doing that. And I
Mm.
realized today that I was even a little envious. Oh, I wish I could have, been that way as a kid.
Mm.
But I was more intimidated. So, uh, but it just to me expresses so keenly what we need to know. We need to make the globe adorable,
Mm.
and look at what we're making out of it. So I will try. Let me see what happens now. So here I'm picturing Jerry. So I'm picturing Jerry as a boy leaning over the globe, fingering the mountains on this textured globe he has. And I just feel his embrace of the whole globe. And you know, his joyous fascination and embrace, fascination with and embrace of this globe. He's entranced. So now, if I ask to see myself in Jerry's shoes, what happens? So I get something of a distant image of Janny, kind of distant and faint. It's kind of like, oh, it's like she said, oh, and it's something kind of like rising up, like a big surprise. And now I feel an arm of hers coming out. And now I feel a huge skirt swinging around. And that's my, that's explaining itself to me as the dancer in her coming alive, because that was her answer to all the havoc she was in. And now I guess she's drawing back a little. But that is it. I think that essentially it's that sweeping embrace. Hers got a little truncated, but she did. She is mirroring that sweeping embrace of yours just as best as she can. And that's why I understand that, because the power of that in her and in me, because I got through my difficult childhood by swinging my way through musicals in the living room.
Well,
And the one movie that that I remember is Fantasia. And what do I remember about that movie? Just this big sweeping pink skirt.
mm,
So that's it.
what does that touch in you when you see that big sweeping pink skirt?
Well, if you know, had your perspective on my 84 years of being shy, withdrawn character, uh, it's just, and here I know that it's only recently that Janny has showed me what it's like to be at one, to feel at one. So these, both of these images, whether Fantasia and this one, they are at one sweeping, powerful move. You know, they're not all this higgledy jiggledy that most of my life has been.
Mm,
That may not mean so much to you, but that means a lot to me, because I did have a hanging hell of an idea what being at one was, being
mm,
the child of a broken home. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, that sweeping move. I mean, if just what comes up to me, what I'm tempted to do is, if you want to even go into that image even more, and just like what's that feel like, that big arc you described. I just wonder if there's anything else in there that might be valuable for you to concentrate on a bit more.
Well, I think that, like what you said earlier about having that sense of things to come, that foresight, is that's sweeping embrace of that skirt or Janny's arm and that move, that that I feel that I'm asking that of you, that we complete that movement by keeping this conversation going in the way that we're doing, because that's
Mm.
needs to enter the world. That this is the form of friendship that people crave. And some of us are lucky we have moments of it, but mostly we dwell on our broken heart songs. But this is where we would like to be, and this is where my practice has enabled me to be, even as devastating as old age is.
Hey, can I share one bit that's coming to me after what you just shared?
Sure.
Yeah, when I hear you describe how you're seeing Janny and how that image of this big pink dress came, it's just like this spinning dancer. It reminds me that the globe that my 11-year-old self was just like studying so carefully in a tactile way, that
Mhm.
that globe actually spun. It
Uh-huh.
spins
Uh-huh.
too.
Sure.
And
Uh-huh.
sometimes I would love to just be with it as this static, stationary thing, but I also love to spin that globe.
Mhm.
And I'm just when I feel that spinning, I can actually hear the squeaking noise it would make. It wasn't just this smooth earth spinning, it was this like terrible squeaking noise. But I
Do
just
you
love the
see how each different aspect of that, as you describe it, is an energy that's contributing to the whole strength,
hmm
the experience? You see, and what you and I are doing is enabling people to take the time to experience those inner strengths that otherwise have get lost and gone in the mush of it all.
hmm
If you don't recognize them, you can't get a hold of them. You don't know what they are, and they either hit you or they're gone.
mm,
When you take the time to get a hold of them, then you can see what we're all composed of and how we can do justice by the delicacy and forcefulness of these subtle energies that we're made of.
yeah,
But
that.
glop them together, we've had it. I mean, wank.
Well, let me say a little bit more about what this squeakiness is like of the spinning globe.
Please.
Something about that when I get back into that image of spinning that globe and its squeakiness, it's there's something powerful about it that the whole earth is spinning just like that, and it's also kind of comical that it's got this like squeaking kind of like squeaking noise that just like it's something about it's like beautiful in its comical imperfection, and I just feel this big grin on my face and like this flush of energy around that.
And I'm sitting here feeling what salvation is there is in localizing that spinning, because more or less I kind of got trapped in what my mother called dim swizzling. So I was just, you know,
Mm,
so that's why I would rather have been dead, because I couldn't get a hold of any of it because it was too much happening. So
hmm
I can just see the joy in in the localization of the spinning.
Well, when I hear you describing Jenny in that pink dress spinning, I get this real sense, like just like with the globe, there's an axis
Yes.
that spinning is happening around. So there's this great resonance between our two.
So it's you can give a little thanks to Walt Disney, because there are two movie scenes I remember from my childhood. One is Joan of Arc burning at the stake, and the other is this scene in Fantasia, this so triumphant pink dance skirt.
Mm. Both have a very central axis to them, huh? Both of those images.
Well, I'm glad my imagination favored Fantasia,
Yeah.
but because of your sensibility now in experience the structural nature, that's not just a fantasy. That's a presence, and it meant a lot to me. But that skirt could fly. You know, when I was feeling so big, draggled, and
Mm.
so
Yes.
that explains in my reciprocal vision, you know, what the sweep of that in my image, in my reciprocal vision to you, why that's so important. So, because the situation was I was in didn't allow me to exercise any sweep of strength in any circumstance. It's taken me a long time to build that up that potential.
Mm. Well, you danced, right?
Well, as a kid, see, like I danced to every musical we saw, you know, through all through in the living room, and then I think it I think I was about 9. This very gallant young man treated me to a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers experience of dancing one night at this school up in the foothills. And the next day, I see myself, I have a very strong image of this standing out on a street corner in the middle of the desert, waiting for a bus. And I'm all alone there with mesquite trees and the, what is that? Um, Greasewood.
Mm-hmm.
Not a soul in sight. And I'm picturing this guy and our dancing the night before, and that was when I decided I wanted to be a dancer. It was in Connecticut where I had several classes with Martha Graham and Jose Limon.
Mm.
And that those classes with Martha Graham, probably the most important thing that ever happened to my body because well, speaking of breathing, the first 15 or 20 minutes of her class were just building up from breathing. So just very quietly breathing. And by the time she introduced, you know, a couple of moves, from just sitting very quietly breathing to start off with, you were just flying in about 15. It's not nothing like it. The depth of concentration and the sweep of the movement that it brought out of me, even when I was still very discombobulated. So that was really the apex of my dancing career. And then um, I got shunted off into poetry and becoming an architecture editor and writer. And so it wasn't a marvel to me when I encountered eidetic imaging and realized that I could spend the rest of my life being a dancer with the light.
You
But you
still are.
see, but you're the person, well, you'll see, if you look at my old videos, there were a couple of old students when I first started studying this that made those old videos with me. And, you know, so they were on the verge, you know, helping me realize this, my understanding that the only way that this is going to get across to people is through engage, you know, engaging in it. And so that's why I've always wanted to do empathy imaging, or lucid improvisations, I call it, or, you know, sharing in dancing with the light. And you're the first person that I've been able to do sustained demonstrations of it, even though we're still sitting here and we've never met. Um, we're both sufficiently attuned, not only to this global sense, but to this bodily sense, that we can convey the essence of that need for and enjoyment of performance, which means through form. Per is through and form, and without it, the balloon blubbers out, right? So I do believe it's what we are doing, and especially I think it's coming through with these early child images that we're doing lately, you know, more and more sense of that these steps for concentration enable us to bring our full vitality and sense of justice to life. What's at the heart of this is this profound, ultimate respect for the balance within each one of us, without which we have no standing, and therefore we cannot be sufficiently respectful of ourselves or others or other creatures or even plants without this knowing the standing within us, the uprightness, the squeaky access.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad I have that image of you now in that pink dress. That's kind of my you know how people online have their one little snapshot of themselves that everybody sees over and over again. That's going to be my image of you.
Okay, now I'm gonna give you another dimension on that. I can't quite remember exactly where we had ended up, but when I went to sleep about 2 in the morning or something after that, I saw this image of Janny, and she's I don't know, she could be 6 or 8 or something, and she's curled over on her side in bed, and I'm, as imager, I'm looking at her from the foot end, and I see that she's smiling at me. And then I smile at her. And then she and I are smiling at each other with this beaming power that, like Daddy brought this out in me a while back. And so that is to just tremendously deepening feeling that brings out this sense of comfort and joy that is so surprising to me. And then what happens? I have what I want to call now a night garden. The darkness in my imagination is suddenly full of these bluish pink flowers in bloom, and they're all dangling and just lightly quivering. And this is my night. This is my night of flowers.
Mm.
And they're like applauding this achievement of communication that Jani and I have just arrived at. But my imagination will do that every once in a while, and they are clearly, like, this is clearly applauding
Hmm.
the space I just arrived in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what that brings up in me, that just the natural world is so ready to mirror us back and celebrate us and applaud us. There's so many reflections. It's like the world wants us to tap into who we can really be and our potential.
Absolutely.
And when we do that, there's just this, in my experience, this mirroring back, like you're saying, like, yeah, we don't, the
Thank you.
the planet doesn't want you to be some like guilt-ridden, uh squirmy being, wants us to thrive.
Absolutely wants company.
Yeah.
Good company.
Mhm.